Victoria Sterling wiped down the espresso machine for the third time that morning, her long auburn hair catching the golden sunlight that streamed through the windows of her small coffee shop. Morning Brew, located in the heart of downtown Seattle. At 28, she had built her business from nothing, pouring every ounce of her savings and dreams into the cozy space that smelled perpetually of freshly ground beans and homemade pastries. The morning rush had ended, leaving only a few regular customers typing on laptops in the corner booths. Victoria hummed softly to herself as she arranged fresh flowers in mason jar vases, completely unaware that her life was about to change forever. The brass bell above the door chimed, and Victoria looked up to see a man unlike any of her usual customers. Nathan Cross stood 6 feet tall, his dark hair perfectly styled, wearing a charcoal gray suit that probably cost more than Victoria's monthly rent. But it wasn't his obvious wealth that caught her attention. It was the way he seemed genuinely nervous as he approached the counter. "Good morning," Victoria said with her trademark warm smile.
What can I get started for you today?
Nathan found himself momentarily speechless. He had expected to grab a quick coffee before his board meeting, but the woman behind the counter had completely derailed his thoughts. Her green eyes sparkled with genuine kindness, and her smile seemed to light up the entire shop. Coffee," Nathan stammered, feeling like a teenager again. "Just coffee, please." Victoria laughed, a melodic sound that made Nathan's heart skip. "Well, you've come to the right place. We have 17 different coffee options. Any preferences, or would you like me to surprise you?" "Surprise me," Nathan said, surprising himself. He never let anyone else make decisions for him, especially not about something as routine as coffee. As Victoria worked her magic behind the espresso machine, she couldn't help but steal glances at the mysterious stranger. Despite his expensive clothes and obvious success, there was something lonely about him, a sadness in his dark eyes that made her want to reach out and comfort him. "Here you go," she said, sliding a ceramic mug across the marble counter. "My signature blend, cinnamon vanilla latte with a hint of cardamom. Call it morning magic." Nathan took a sip, and his eyes widened in amazement. The coffee was perfect, complex and warming, unlike anything he had ever tasted. "This is incredible. How did you know exactly what I needed?" "Lucky guess," Victoria replied with a blush. "You look like someone who appreciates the finer things in life, but also needs a little comfort in your morning." For the next hour, Nathan found excuses to linger in the coffee shop. He learned that Victoria had opened Morning Brew 3 years ago after graduating from culinary school. She told him about her dreams of expanding to a second location, her love of experimenting with new flavors, and her belief that coffee brought people together. Nathan shared more about himself in that single conversation than he had with anyone in years. He told her about his tech company, Cross Industries, but more importantly, he talked about feeling disconnected from the world despite his success. "Money can't buy happiness," Victoria observed gently. "But it sounds like you already know that." When Nathan finally forced himself to leave, he was already planning his return. "Same time tomorrow?" he asked hopefully. "I'll have your morning magic ready," Victoria promised. The courtship for 3 weeks, Nathan arrived at Morning Brew every morning at exactly 9:30. Their conversations grew deeper with each visit. Victoria learned that Nathan was 34 and had built his technology empire from a small startup in his garage. He discovered that Victoria was not only beautiful and kind, but also incredibly intelligent. With a degree in business that she used to run her coffee shop with impressive efficiency. "You know," Nathan said during his 4th week of visits, "I've been thinking about your expansion plans. Have you considered a partnership with local businesses to increase foot traffic?" Victoria's eyes lit up with excitement as they discussed business strategies. Nathan was amazed by her innovative ideas and natural business instincts. She suggested collaborations with nearby bookstores, partnerships with local artists to display their work, and even a mobile coffee cart for special events. "You have an incredible mind for business," Nathan told her honestly. "You could run any company in this city." "Thank you, but I love what I do here," Victoria replied. "There's something special about creating a space where people can connect over good coffee." On a rainy Thursday morning, Nathan finally gathered the courage to ask the question that had been burning in his chest for days. "Victoria, would you have dinner with me tonight? Somewhere that isn't separated by a coffee counter?" Her smile could have powered the entire city. "I thought you'd never ask." The first date, Nathan picked Victoria up at 7 o'clock sharp, arriving at her modest apartment building with a bouquet of sunflowers instead of traditional roses. "How did you know sunflowers are my favorite?" Victoria asked, touched by the thoughtful gesture. "You have them painted on your coffee shop walls," Nathan replied. "I notice everything about you." He took her to a small Italian restaurant in Pioneer Square, choosing intimate atmosphere over expensive formality. Over candlelit dinner, their connection deepened beyond anything either had experienced before. "I have to confess something," Nathan said as they shared tiramisu. "I've never met anyone like you, Victoria. You make me want to be a better person." "You're already a good person, Nathan," Victoria replied softly. "You just needed someone to help you remember that." When Nathan walked Victoria to her door that evening, the air between them crackled with electricity. He cupped her face gently in his hands, searching her eyes for permission. "I'm falling for you," he whispered. "Already fell," Victoria breathed. Just before their lips met in a kiss that felt like coming home. The whirlwind romance over the next 2 months, Nathan and Victoria were inseparable. Nathan introduced Victoria to his world of charity galas and business dinners. But what he truly treasured were their simple moments together. They cooked dinner in Victoria's tiny kitchen, took long walks through Pike Place Market, and spent hours talking about their dreams for the future. Victoria showed Nathan the joy and everyday pleasures he had forgotten existed. They fed ducks at Green Lake, browsed used bookstores, and had picnics in Myrtle Edwards Park. Nathan bought Victoria's coffee shop a professional-grade espresso machine. But more importantly, he helped her paint the interior walls and installed new shelving with his own hands. "I love watching you work," Victoria told him one evening as they painted together. "You have paint in your hair, your shirt is ruined, and you've never looked happier." "That's because I am happy," Nathan replied, pulling her close, despite their paint-covered clothes. "For the first time in my life, I understand what happiness actually feels like." The proposal 3 months after their first meeting, Nathan knew with absolute certainty that Victoria was his soulmate. On a crisp October evening, he took her to the rooftop garden of his downtown penthouse, which he had transformed into a wonderland of twinkling lights and autumn flowers. "Victoria," Nathan began, dropping to one knee as the Seattle skyline sparkled behind him. "You came into my life like sunshine after a storm. You taught me that love isn't about finding someone perfect. It's about finding someone who makes you want to be perfect for them." He pulled out a simple but elegant diamond ring, chosen not for its size, but for its beauty and meaning. "Will you marry me? Will you let me spend the rest of my life proving how much I love you?" Through happy tears, Victoria whispered, "Yes, Nathan. Yes, 1,000 times yes." The wedding and early marriage, they married 6 weeks later in an intimate ceremony at the Volunteer Park Conservatory, surrounded by tropical flowers and their closest friends. Victoria wore a simple white dress that made her look like an angel, and Nathan couldn't stop smiling as he promised to love, to honor, and cherish her for all the days of his life. "I love you, Mrs. Cross," Nathan whispered as they danced their first dance as husband and wife. "I love you too, Mr. Cross," Victoria replied. Her heart overflowing with joy, their honeymoon was spent at Nathan's private cabin on Whidbey Island, where they made love with passionate tenderness and planned their future together. Victoria talked about expanding her coffee business, while Nathan considered stepping back from daily operations of his company to focus on their life together. "I want children," Victoria said one morning as they watched the sunrise over Puget Sound. "Lots of children running around, filling our home with laughter." "How many is lots?" Nathan asked, nuzzling her neck. "As many as love creates," Victoria replied. The same answer that felt like destiny. The first months of their marriage were pure bliss. Nathan surprised Victoria by purchasing the building next to her coffee shop, allowing her to expand Morning Brew into the larger space she had always dreamed of. Victoria surprised Nathan by transforming his sterile penthouse into a warm, loving home filled with plants, photographs, and the constant sound of her laughter. The pregnancy announcement for months into their marriage, Victoria began feeling queasy in the mornings. At first, she attributed it to stress from the coffee shop expansion, but when the symptoms persisted, she decided to take a pregnancy test. Staring at the positive result, Victoria felt her world shift with overwhelming joy. She was going to be a mother, and Nathan was going to be a father. Their love had created new life. That evening, Victoria prepared Nathan's favorite dinner and waited for him to come home. When he walked through the door, she was practically glowing with excitement. "You look like you're about to burst with secrets," Nathan observed, setting down his briefcase and crossing to kiss her. "Sit down," Victoria said, barely able to contain her happiness. "I have something amazing to tell you," Nathan settled beside her on their sofa, his complete attention focused on his radiant wife. "Nathan," Victoria began, taking his hands in hers, "we're going to have a baby." The silence that followed seemed to last forever. Then Nathan's face transformed with pure, overwhelming joy. He let out a shout of happiness that echoed through their penthouse, sweeping Victoria into his arms and spinning her around their living room. "A baby," he cried, tears streaming down his face. "Victoria, we're going to be parents?" Victoria laughed through her own happy tears. "I can hardly believe it myself." Nathan knelt before her, placing his hands protectively over her still flat stomach. "Hello, little miracle," he whispered. "This is your daddy, and I love you more than you'll ever know." As they held each other that night, both crying with joy and making plans for their growing family, neither Nathan nor Victoria could have imagined that someone who claimed to love them was already plotting to destroy their happiness forever. The perfect love story they had created was about to face its ultimate test. And the woman who had given birth to Nathan would soon prove that sometimes the most dangerous enemies are the ones who share your blood. Rebecca Cross stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her Hamptons estate, watching the rain cascade down the glass like tears. At 55, she remained strikingly beautiful. Her silver hair pulled back in an elegant chignon, her ice-blue eyes sharp with intelligence and calculation. But beneath her refined exterior lurked a heart cold enough to freeze fire. The news of Nathan's marriage had shattered her carefully constructed plans for her son's future. For years, she had envisioned him marrying someone from their social circle, someone who understood the importance of status, breeding, and family legacy. Instead, he had chosen a coffee shop owner, a nobody from a middle-class background who threatened everything Rebecca held sacred. "Mother, you look troubled," Catherine Cross observed as she entered the sitting room. At 30, Nathan's younger sister was a mirror image of Rebecca in both beauty and ruthless ambition. She had inherited her mother's talent for manipulation and her father's business acumen, making her a formidable ally in any scheme. "Nathan called this morning," Rebecca said without turning from the window. "His wife is pregnant." Catherine's perfectly manicured hand tightened around her crystal wine glass. "A baby changes everything. It legitimizes their marriage in ways we cannot undo." "Unless we act quickly," Rebecca replied, her voice carrying the deadly calm that had intimidated boardroom executives for decades. "A child born to an unsuitable mother is still an unsuitable child. But a child born to a woman who has been proven unworthy, well, that's a different matter entirely." The two women looked at each other with perfect understanding. They had been partners in social warfare since Catherine was old enough to understand that maintaining their family's position required constant vigilance against those who would threaten it. The investigation begins within days of learning about Victoria's pregnancy. Rebecca hired Marcus Delacroix, the most discreet private investigator money could buy. Delacroix specialized in finding dirt on people who appeared to clean, creating scandals where none existed, and manufacturing evidence that could destroy reputations and relationships. "I need everything on Victoria Sterling Cross," Rebecca instructed during their first meeting in her private office. "Every relationship, every financial transaction, every moment of weakness. And if you cannot find anything damaging, then create something believable." Delacroix, a thin man with forgettable features and exceptional skills in deception, nodded grimly. "How far are you willing to go, Mrs. Cross?" "As far as necessary to protect my family," Rebecca replied without hesitation. "My son has been blinded by infatuation. It is my duty as his mother to open his eyes before it's too late." For weeks, Delacroix followed Victoria, photographed her daily routines, and investigated every aspect of her life. But Victoria's background was frustratingly clean. She had no hidden debts, no secret relationships, no scandalous past. She was exactly what she appeared to be, a hardworking, honest woman who genuinely loved her husband. The fabrication when legitimate dirt proved impossible to find. Rebecca approved Delacroix's plan to manufacture evidence of an affair. They hired James Romano, an out-of-work actor with dark hair and Mediterranean features, to play the role of Victoria's secret lover using advanced photo editing software. Delacroix created a series of images showing Victoria and James in intimate conversation at restaurants, parks, and hotel lobbies. The photos were expertly crafted, showing enough detail to be convincing while maintaining enough distance to hide any obvious signs of manipulation. "These are perfect," Rebecca observed as she examined the fabricated evidence. "But we need more than photos. We need medical evidence." Dr. Mitchell Hayes had been the Cross family physician for 15 years. A man of weak character and expensive tastes, he had accumulated significant gambling debts that Rebecca had quietly paid off in exchange for certain favors. When she approached him about falsifying DNA results, he initially resisted. "Mrs. Cross, what you're asking me to do is not only unethical, it's illegal," Dr. Hayes protested, his hands shaking as he reviewed her request. "What I'm asking you to do is save my family from a fortune hunter," Rebecca replied coldly. "And may I remind you that your gambling debts to some very dangerous people were paid by my generosity. Surely you can find a way to help an old friend." Faced with the choice between professional ethics and personal survival, Dr. Hayes chose to falsify DNA test results, showing that Nathan was not the father of Victoria's unborn child. The documents looked official, complete with medical letterheads and scientific terminology that would convince even a careful observer. The perfect timing as Victoria's pregnancy progressed. Rebecca and Catherine refined their plan with meticulous attention to detail. They would wait until Victoria went into labor, then create a medical emergency that would separate Nathan from his wife during her most vulnerable moment. "Timing is everything," Catherine observed during one of their planning sessions. "Must be emotionally distraught and isolated when we present the evidence. His judgment will be clouded by stress and exhaustion." Rebecca practiced her collapse daily, perfecting the symptoms of a heart attack that would be dramatic enough to convince Nathan, but not severe enough to require actual medical intervention. She studied the timing of contractions, the duration of labor, and the emotional state of expectant fathers to ensure her performance would achieve maximum impact. "Mother, are you certain this will work?" Catherine asked during their final preparation. "Nathan loves her deeply. Even with evidence, he might choose to believe in her innocence." "Men are simple creatures," Rebecca replied with cruel confidence. "They can forgive many things, but not betrayal of their masculinity. When Nathan believes another man is fathered, his child, his pride, will destroy his love more effectively than any argument we could make." The web of Lestamus Wilson, the Cross family's loyal butler for over 2 decades, began noticing unusual activity in the household. Late-night meetings, whispered phone conversations, and strange visitors who came and went through the service. Entrance. His years of faithful service had taught him to observe without commenting. But something about the current situation troubled his conscience. One evening, while cleaning Rebecca's study, Thomas discovered a payment receipt that had fallen behind her desk. The amount was substantial, paid to a company called Digital Imagery Solutions for services rendered. When he discreetly researched the company, he discovered they specialized in photo manipulation and document forgery. Thomas felt his stomach turn as pieces of a horrible puzzle began forming in his mind. He had served the Cross family faithfully, but he had also grown fond of Nathan's obvious happiness with Victoria. The young woman had been nothing but kind to him during their brief meetings, treating him with respect and genuine warmth that was rare among the wealthy families he had served. As the due date approached, Thomas wrestled with his conscience. His loyalty to the family battled against his moral obligation to prevent what he increasingly suspected was an elaborate deception, designed to destroy an innocent woman and her child. On January 10th, 2 days before Victoria's due date, Rebecca received confirmation that everything was in place. The fabricated photos were ready, the false DNA results were prepared. Dr. Hayes had been coached on his role in the deception. "Tomorrow? Or the next day?" Rebecca told Catherine as they reviewed their evidence one final time. The moment Victoria goes into labor, we implement our plan. Catherine examined the photos with cold satisfaction. These are remarkably convincing. Even I might believe them if I didn't know better. The key is Nathan's emotional state, Rebecca reminded her daughter. We must time the revelation perfectly. Too early, and he might think rationally. Too late, and his bond with the child might override his anger about the betrayal. Neither woman showed any remorse for the lives they were about to destroy. In their minds, they were protecting their family's legacy from a woman they considered unworthy. The fact that Victoria was innocent, that she genuinely loved Nathan, and that she was carrying his child meant nothing to them compared to their own sense of social superiority. As they prepared for battle, Victoria lay sleeping peacefully. In her home, one hand resting on her swollen belly, completely unaware that the people who should have welcomed her child were instead plotting to ensure the child would be born into a world of lies and broken hearts. The stage was set for a betrayal, a cruel and calculated that it would shatter. 3 lives forever, all in the name of protecting a family's pride. January 12th arrived with deceptive calm. The Seattle sky painted in soft pastels as dawn broke over the city. Victoria woke at 5 in the morning to the unmistakable sensation of labor beginning. The contractions started gently, like waves lapping at the shore, but she knew their son was ready to meet the world. "Nathan," she whispered, shaking her husband's shoulders softly. "It's time." Nathan's eyes flew open instantly, his business instincts making him alert within seconds. When he saw the mixture of excitement and discomfort on Victoria's face, his entire world shifted into focus. "Are you sure?" he asked, already moving to time her contractions with the stopwatch app on his phone. "Very sure," Victoria breathed through another wave of pain. "Our baby is ready to be born." Within an hour, they were preparing to leave for Swedish Medical Center, their carefully packed hospital bag ready by the door. Nathan moved with efficient calm, but Victoria could see the excitement and nervousness dancing in his dark eyes. "I love you," he said, kissing her forehead as another contraction peaked. "Both of you. In a few hours, we're going to meet our son." "I can't wait to see him," Victoria replied, her hand finding Nathan's. "To see your eyes in his little face." But before they could leave for the hospital, Nathan's phone rang with the urgent tone he had assigned to family calls. Rebecca's name appeared on the screen, and Nathan almost ignored it before reluctantly answering. "Nathan, thank God," Rebecca's voice came through, breathless and panicked. "I need you here immediately. I'm having chest pains and I'm terrified. Please, son, I need you. Mother, Victoria is in labor. We're heading to the hospital right now. Please." Rebecca's voice cracked with manufactured emotion. "I think I'm having a heart attack. I'm alone and I'm so frightened. Just come quickly, then go to the hospital. 20 minutes, no more." Victoria, seeing the conflict in Nathan's eyes, squeezed his hand gently. "Go to your mother. Catherine can drive me to the hospital, and you can meet us there once you know. She's safe." "I can't leave you in labor," Nathan protested, though his voice carried the weight of filial obligation. "Family takes care of family," Victoria said, with the generous heart that had made Nathan fall in love with her. "Your mother needs you, and our baby won't arrive for hours yet. Go." The cruel deception, Athen arrived at the Hamptons estate to find Rebecca collapsed in the foyer, clutching her chest and breathing heavily. Catherine knelt beside her, her face a mask of convincing concern. "She just collapsed," Catherine reported. As Nathan rushed to his mother's side, started complaining of chest pain and shortness of breath, then went down. Nathan asked, his medical knowledge limited but his concern genuine. "No," Rebecca gasped weakly. "No hospitals. Just stress about the business merger. I'll be fine if I can rest. But I need my son here. Please don't leave me alone." As Nathan helped his mother to the sitting room, Catherine excused herself too. Call the family doctor, but instead, she was coordinating the final phase of their plan. Within minutes, she returned with the manila envelope containing their fabricated evidence. "Nathan," Catherine began, her voice heavy with false sorrow. "While Mother was collapsed, she asked me to give you something. Evidence she's been holding, hoping she'd never need to show you. What kind of evidence? Nathan asked, still focused on Rebecca's apparent recovery. About Victoria, Rebecca said, her voice stronger now that she had her son's attention. We hired an investigator not to spy but to protect you. What we discovered broke our hearts. Catherine opened the envelope with theatrical reluctance, spreading the doctored photographs across the coffee table. The images showed Victoria in intimate conversation with James Romano in various locations around the city. This is James Romano, Rebecca explained, her voice thick with false sympathy. He's been meeting with Victoria throughout her pregnancy. They've been seen together dozens of times. Nathan stared at the photos, his world tilting off its axis. The images looked genuine, showing Victoria laughing with a handsome man, their body language suggesting intimacy and familiarity. There's more, Catherine said quietly, producing the falsified DNA results. Preliminary testing we arranged shows that the baby Victoria is carrying is not yours, Nathan. The medical documents appeared official and conclusive. Nathan's hands shook as he read the results that proclaimed zero probability of his paternity. Everything he had believed about his marriage, his love, and his unborn child crumbled in that moment. This cannot be real, Nathan whispered, his voice breaking. Victoria loves me. She would never betray me like this. We didn't want to believe it either, Rebecca said, moving to comfort her devastated son. But the evidence is overwhelming. She's been using you, Nathan. Your wealth, your name, your protection. Nathan's phone buzzed with a text from Catherine, who was at the hospital with Victoria. The message read, "Labor progressing quickly. Where are you, Victoria? Asking for you." Staring at his phone, at the photos scattered before him, at his family's concerned faces, Nathan felt something die inside his chest. The woman he had trusted with his entire heart, the woman carrying what he had believed was his child, had been living a lie, with hands shaking with rage and heartbreak. Nathan typed the message that would destroy everything, me or the baby. Choose. The response came back within minutes, sent between contractions as Victoria struggled through labor. I choose our baby. Always our baby. To Nathan's poisoned mind, this wasn't the response of a loving wife choosing their child's life. During difficult labor, this was confirmation of his worst fears, proof that she had never truly loved him, that the baby wasn't his, that everything beautiful in his life had been an elaborate deception. The birth of truth at Swedish Medical Center. Victoria gave birth to Oliver Nathan Cross at 11:47 p.m., completely alone except for Catherine's cold presence in the corner of the room. The baby arrived healthy and perfect, with Nathan's dark hair and strong jaw, looking exactly like his father. He's beautiful, the nurse said, placing the crying infant in Victoria's arms. He looks just like Daddy. Victoria stared down at her son through tears of joy and heartbreak. Oliver had Nathan's eyes, Nathan's chin, Nathan's hands. He was unmistakably a cross, and yet his father had abandoned them both during their most important moment. Where is Nathan? Victoria asked Catherine. Weakly, please tell me he's coming. Catherine's face was stone cold as she delivered the final blow. Nathan knows about your affair, Victoria. He knows the baby isn't his. He's chosen to end the marriage. Victoria's world collapsed as she held her newborn son. The man who had promised to love her forever, who had spent months reading to their unborn child, who had planned every detail of their baby's nursery, believed she had betrayed him. But Oliver is his son, Victoria whispered through her tears. Anyone can see the resemblance. Nathan doesn't believe that anymore, Catherine replied with cruel satisfaction. Frankly, neither do we. The butler's courage, meanwhile, Thomas Wilson stood in the shadows of the Cross estate. Having overheard enough of the conversation to understand the full scope of Rebecca and Catherine's deception, his conscience finally overcame his loyalty to the family, and he made the decision that would change everything. Thomas had secretly gathered evidence of the family's lies over the past months. Payment receipts to photo manipulation services. Correspondence with Dr. Hayes about falsifying medical records. Recorded conversations between Rebecca and Catherine discussing their plan. As Nathan sat in his father's study, drinking whiskey, and staring at the fabricated evidence, Thomas knocked gently on the door. Master Nathan, Thomas said quietly, there's something you need to know about your wife, about what really happened today. I don't want to hear any more lies, Nathan replied bitterly. These aren't lies, sir. These are the truth about the lies you've been told. Thomas placed a thick folder on the desk. Your wife never betrayed you, but your family has betrayed you both. For the next hour, Thomas revealed everything. Fabricated photos, the falsified DNA results, Rebecca's feigned heart attack, and the timing designed to separate Nathan from Victoria during labor. Each piece of evidence was damning, each revelation more devastating than the last. They paid actors, bribed doctors, and manufactured an entire affair to destroy your marriage. Thomas explained, his voice heavy with regret. Mrs. Victoria is innocent, sir. The child is yours. Everything you believed about her betrayal was created by your own family. Nathan stared at the evidence of his family's betrayal, his heart breaking anew. He had destroyed his marriage based on lies. He had abandoned his wife during childbirth because of fabricated evidence. He had missed his son's birth because he had believed the people would claim to love him most. The race to redemption without another word. Nathan ran from the estate, driving through the dark Seattle streets like a man possessed. At the hospital, he burst through the doors of the maternity ward. Demanding to know Victoria's room number, he found her in the recovery room, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in blue blankets. When Victoria looked up and saw Nathan in the doorway, her eyes filled. With tears of hope and fear, Victoria, Nathan breathed, seeing his son for the first time. The baby was unmistakably his, with the same dark eyes and strong features that marked him as a cross. Nathan, Victoria whispered, meet your son, meet Oliver. Nathan approached slowly, his hands shaking as he looked down at the perfect child. In Victoria's arms, Oliver had his father's nose, his grandfather's chin, and his mother's peaceful expression. He's mine, Nathan said in wonder, the words carrying the weight of recognition and regret. He's ours, Victoria corrected gently, though her voice carried the pain of Nathan's earlier abandonment. Nathan sank into the chair beside Victoria's bed, his face buried in his hands. I'm so sorry. God, Victoria, I'm so sorry. They lied too. Me. They made me believe you had betrayed me, that Oliver wasn't mine. I was so stupid, so weak. Who lied to you? Victoria asked, though she suspected the answer. My mother. My sister. They fabricated photos, falsified DNA tests, created an entire affair that never existed. They timed it all for today, for when you were in labor, to maximize the damage. Victoria's heart broke for her husband even as she struggled with her own pain. Nathan, how could you believe I would betray you? After everything we shared, how could you think I was capable of deception? I don't know, Nathan admitted, tears streaming down his face. I was devastated, confused, presented with evidence. That seemed conclusive, but that's no excuse. I should have trusted you, should have believed in our love, instead of believing in their lies. For several minutes, they sat in silence, the weight of the day's events settling between them. Oliver slept peacefully in Victoria's arms, innocent of the drama that had surrounded his birth. Can you forgive me? Nathan finally asked, his voice barely audible. Victoria looked at her husband, seeing the genuine remorse in his eyes, the devastation of a man who had realized his terrible mistake. She thought about their love story, their promises to each other, and the innocent child who needed both his parents. Nathan, she said softly, what happened today nearly destroyed us. But looking at Oliver, seeing your face when you recognized him as your son, I realized that love means fighting for each other, even when others try to tear us apart. Does that mean yes? Nathan asked hopefully. It means we have work to do, Victoria replied. Trust has to be rebuilt. But we have something worth fighting for. Nathan gently touched Oliver's tiny hand, amazed when his son's fingers instinctively wrapped around his father's finger. Hello, son, Nathan whispered. I'm your daddy, and I promise I'll never doubt your mother's love again. I'll never let anyone hurt our family. The new beginning over the following weeks? Nathan and Victoria worked to heal the wounds created by Rebecca and Catherine's deception. Nathan cut all ties with his mother and sister, making it clear that their betrayal was unforgivable. He fired. Dr. Hayes reported him to the medical board and ensured that Marcus Delacour's reputation as a private investigator was thoroughly destroyed. Thomas
House.
Wilson was rewarded for his courage with a position as head of household security. His loyalty to truth over family loyalty earning Nathan's deep respect and gratitude. Victoria struggled initially with trusting Nathan completely, but watching him with Oliver, seeing his devotion to their son, and his genuine remorse for his moment of weakness, gradually healed her heart. Nathan spent every possible moment with his family, taking paternity leave from his company to focus entirely on being the husband and father he should have been from the beginning. I nearly lost everything that mattered because I listened to people who claimed to love me but were really trying to control me. Nathan reflected one evening as they put Oliver to bed in the nursery he had so lovingly prepared. But we didn't lose everything, Victoria reminded him, watching their son sleep peacefully. We lost our innocence, maybe, but we gained something stronger. We know now that our love can survive even the cruelest betrayal. As they stood together in the soft glow of the nursery nightlight, watching their son sleep, both Nathan and Victoria understood that their love story had been tested by fire and had emerged stronger than ever. The choice Victoria had made in the delivery room, choosing their baby over her husband's impossible ultimatum, had ultimately saved their family by revealing the depth of both her commitment and his family's deception. Their fairy tale had included a dragon after all. But unlike the traditional stories, this dragon had worn the face of family, making the victory over evil all the more precious for its personal cost. Thank you for taking the time.